ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to some Faceit League action. What I'm hoping is our first proper double feature of the season, and hey, expectations are high. We have two fun matchups for you tonight, but of course, first and foremost, we are focused here in South America. It's Factor X taking on DhillPatos, and this might be one of the more exciting matches that we will have, not just this week, but throughout the entire season, Dex, for very obvious reasons. But just to state it out, the DhillPatos team, the majority that you see on there, is former Factor X, the multi-time tournament-winning Factor X, a very successful squad.
And multi-time, but you have to remember they are actually the winners last season here as that Factor X team. But Factor X seeming like they're able to build up another strong team here. Already 3-0 on the regular season. Granted, one of those wins was because of a bye, but still 2-0 in all the games they have played here. We saw them in the Sudamericana. They looked very strong. However, DhillPatos was a little bit of a different breed in that Sudamericana. And you look at this roster here, it's a little bit different. A couple of people went to other teams in South America. A couple of those players also went to North America, LCS being one that we talked about, went to the North American master team of Iliad Helios. So again, this is not the same DhillPatos team from the Sudamericana, but I think this is still the same Factor X team from Sudamericana, and they impressed me a lot in that series there. And I feel like it's going to be a really, really close one here tonight as these two essentially giants of this region go up against each other in a very early point in the season.
Yeah, 100%. Factor X finished top 3 in that Sudamericana. Eventually, I believe, going out to, I believe it was Cosmos, they ended up losing to in the lower finals. But no, they impressed us a lot. I think there were some really strong members. That Volition really showed up a lot playing that Genji. That was extremely impressive, so we'll see what comes to form. At least for the time being, Freya is our first ban. You cannot see it because good old Hunter has not fixed the area, which he has now. So there you go. Freya, first ban out for DhillPatos, so we'll see what Factor X wants to go with. Freya, again, is one of those relatively safe bans because I think Freya has entered a place where she is not overpowered, but is still a very reliable pick.
Yeah, and a lot of burst damage as well. In these compositions where we start to see a lot of teams roll a little bit towards dive, having that burst damage, especially if you land 2 take aim shots, really leaves you in a spot where the tank can dive on them, the other flex support can really clean them up there. So it's a good kind of combo there. So Freya being first one banned out, well, a lot of times in the past, I would have said maybe a little bit of a overreach for map number 1. I definitely think it makes a lot of sense. Like you said, not necessarily as broken as they were at launch. They've kind of been fine-tuned, and right now I think they're in a really good spot. Just overall, they're not too strong, not too weak. However, but we have seen, you're taking away one hit scan. Cassidy has been really strong. We saw that on Wednesday in North America, or I saw that last night actually in CGL. But still, Cass strong. Ashe starting a little bit more playing time. Hanzo is still there. Soj is always a threat no matter what. But it's going to be really interesting to see what we see the Factor X ban be. I feel like, if anything, it might be going over to the side of a tank ban.
I think it really will as well, and obviously with that being their ban coming into place, this could be DhillPatos thinking about what they want to do, because remember, I feel like everybody who is a member of this team is very viable to go into this game. The current people over in the substitute right now are Null and Ludwig, and obviously 2 big names when you think of Brazilian Overwatch. I think there's a good chance that at some point both these players end up coming in today. We'll obviously see what the case is going to be. We got to see a pretty decent amount of these players before during the Sudamericana. It is not the exact same team, but there are a lot of the core members still hanging around here that I think are extremely reliable. We'll see what the case is going to be in the situation, because while Factor X didn't pick it up in the Sudamericana, I think Factor X is still a significantly strong team. I think they can do a lot in this game. It should be able to go either way, but again, Dex, is the situation where only time can tell.
Yeah, and you have to remember, going back to Wednesday, we actually had a rematch of that Sudamerica Grand Final of DhillPatos and Cosmos. And if you remember a lot about Sudamericana, it was DhillPatos that kind of had their way in that Grand Finals there. A sweep, I think, was the end result there. Well, a little bit different here in Faceit League. That was a map 5, a whole series in that one there, showing that there was a little bit of a difference there just with how this DhillPatos team is kind of put together, as like we kind of mentioned before. Some key pieces, a lot of the subs they had in that, not on the team anymore because of Faceit rules and because, well, some of them went to go play elsewhere on some other teams here. But hey, we do know what our second ban of our first map will be. It's going to be Hazard coming out here. So I like it. I really do, especially as a ban on going on to Elios here. You want to see dive. Hazard is still one of those dive tanks, a little bit of a brawl hybrid there where they can have a lot of sustainable actions. So get rid of the Hazard here early on, maybe force you onto something like a Czar, like a Winston, like a D.Va if you want to be playing that dive kind of play style.
Yeah, honestly, like at the end of the day, we have seen quite a little bit of that gameplay of Hazard from Tizzy. We saw it during the Sudamericana. We've seen it in previous times as well. It's just a comfortable pick. I like it at the end of the day. This will probably function more towards, like you said, I think Winston comes into play. D.Va, you think about. We don't usually see a lot of ball in South America in general. It may be a time or two. I can't think of a genuine example of a player who specializes in ball, but that is besides the point. We'll see momentarily, just waiting on one person from DhillPatos to get in here before we get things started. I believe it's Bert that we're waiting on at the moment, but we'll see. You know what, to be fair, I'm definitely jinxing us right now, but I am just happy we have people in the lobby right now. I'm just throwing it out there. Knocking on wood.
I don't remember. Everyone was in lobby Everyone was in lobby on Wednesday, and then it got postponed. But hey, we're heading into map here now. It's gonna be really interesting to see what these two teams come out with, because we kind of know what to expect a little bit from Factor X, considering this is really the same team from that Sudamericana. DhillPatos, on the other hand, yeah, that core is still there, but there is some differences here. I still think the biggest one might honestly just be the fact that LCS is not there. I think LCS was a key part to their team, but still you're gonna have the rest of the squad really fill in the gaps here. I still think this is a very strong team, off to a hot start. Looks like we'll be starting off on well here, where Hunter, if we end up getting this map a little bit later tonight, we might see the funny Hog character, but we're not gonna be seeing Hog this time around. It looks like both teams leaning towards the D.Va here for a moment.
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't mind seeing the D.Va. Tizzy is also comfortable over on the D.Va. Would not be surprised whatsoever to have it come to play. We do see D.Va on the other side as well. Volition looking like the Echo's a possibility. We'll see how things work out. Lord gonna TP everybody out. Likely gonna go over to the Tracer, potentially so, but I imagine it's gonna be a Lore versus Diego Tracer.
Yeah, Bert coming out on the Cassie as well. I like this a little bit better. No big hit scan actually on the other side, because Bullish is playing that Echo, and Bert has to be able to shut them down, or else it's going to be Factor X finding a lot of value with that. But look at that already. Just DhillPatos rotating around the backside of point, while Factor X is just playing around the lighthouse or the window here at the moment. However, they are taking a little bit of space on point, while DhillPatos at the same time just kind of buying their time here, waiting for an opportunity to really just be able to count on something.
100% what you're moving for right here. Point beginning to be contested into right now. It's going to be a struggle as eventually, I mean, you're knocked out of mech super early on, change incredibly low. Volition or Diego need to find some kind of picker. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. You might get rid of Null, but this is just inevitably going to be a captain here for DhillPatos. Volition just going to get out of there alive.
And the sim here for DhillPatos, I mean, it really comes down to this please, on the tank there. Going over to the Wrecking Ball here, we talked about seeing maybe a Wrecking Ball here at some point, but playing that D.Va against the sim is a direct counter there for that D.Va. Sim can just beam straight through the defense matrix, and you saw it right there. They've lost their mech pretty early on. Now, please, just gonna try to do what they can here on this Wrecking Ball. And I think it's gonna work out a little bit better for them, but at the same time, you need to have a lot of coordination here with the rest of your team, especially if you're looking at Volition here, just to be able to land those sticky nades and be able to find a lot of damage from pile drives.
100% forced to get out of there momentarily. A lot of pressure here coming in from Dion. Natsu, please, you're supposed to be. Just wants to keep delivering pressure. They think that's chaotic as humanly possible. Finds a decent slam, but is getting followed up with very effectively as getting close to capping over. Just need to try to get people off this point. Unfortunately, Brig is in a really rough situation. Again, barely going to get a live goal. He pound down upon, is sitting super low. Yet I think run out. Tizzy gets rid of change, and with both supports gone, this is all but not here. As again, Factor X reset. Tizzy getting through down the way.
Diego going to be able to find, again, I think the only pick this fight here for Factor X. This is exactly the start that you're looking for. If you're DhillPatos, again, I came in questioning a little bit if this team was going to still play that high kind of play style that we saw them through Sudamericana, different players. So far, they have passed every test that I really want to see from them, but now Ultimate's starting to come into play here. Yeah, outside of that Deadeye, DhillPatos are going to have everything on their side. Please no name or DM can be able to build up to their mind at some point in this fight, but you need to be able to actually find value with them. This DhillPatos team does have the mobility to really just dodge them out of the way, but the Duke getting out there on the ball, going after
Yeah, unlikely to get a bomb online here, though. Be knocked out of the mech here. Might try to get back in. Volition gonna try. Is gonna be unsuccessful. Meat gonna come out here. I mean, you can throw everything at the kitchen sink right now. If you are DhillPatos, you're gonna be able to get rid of Volition early on. Unable to find that stun. Change is going to have that Consider Rush momentarily. I don't think it might matter a ton, but Diego gets rid of Null. The opening has come into fruition, but it really is Diego who has to come in clutch and tries to come through. Unfortunately, Bert more than happy to wait by bomb available for Tizzy, but unlikely to be necessary, as 100-0 is going to be that. And it is a bit one-sided. There is a lot of fight back here from this Faceit squad, but they are having trouble, honestly, fully engaging in a lot of these fights.
Yeah, they really are, and you have to kind of look at it. This composition that we're seeing here from DhillPatos, a very mobile composition, both teams playing dive, or these kind of rushy play styles where they want to play fast, they want to be always moving here. But Lore on the Symmetra has been such a difference maker here very early on, being able to get Socks, Null, Bert out of some sticky situations with the TPs. Tizzy hasn't really been tested yet. That's the big thing for them. While you look at the other side, they're kind of struggling. Null, I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about them since they were the only person to die on the side of DhillPatos. They died all 3 times. And that was Diego finding them out there, but still, that Kiriko from Null was great there, map number 1. Now DM going over to the Ramonster here, wants to try to brawl out. Diego now going over to the Sode, and Volition now onto the Tracer. I like these buffs a little bit better here for Faceit, but they need to get something going here early on, or I fear the momentum that DhillPatos had that first map will quickly come back.
Yeah, and I think this works a little bit better. It's really a lot more difficult to deal with the Ramonster when you are a Diva. Null goes down super early again. Still the only person to go down. Bert is praying for dear life above. Unfortunately, he's going to be taking out in Lore. Going to be taken out in time. Busy is doing a really good job keeping everybody alive so far, but eventually you're just going to see DM closing things out here. Tizzy going to try to escape while having the mech. Doesn't. Unfortunately, just has to take the reset.
It's going to jump off the map right there, and I mean, great kind of plays there from Faceit. Like I said, they need to have something going their way fast or early in this round, or I felt like they were not being able to come back. And they did exactly that. They got rid of that support, that DPS line for DhillPatos, which was causing them a lot of trouble. And Null, though, finding Diego out does give DhillPatos here an opportunity to play very, very quickly on the re-engage. And they're going to try to do it here, already back to the point, fighting DM on it.
Yeah, 100%. Now Tizzy coming up already close to a bomb at this stage, going to try to fight him. Rick gonna be able to survive at least momentarily. As Lore incredibly close to going down. Point is basically gonna flip for free. You're gonna get one more toucher for Volition, but going to get deleted on the spot. And now you gotta focus on getting a quick exit here. As Tizzy is just hoping to clear out house once again.
Some of these members will not be able to clear out. Change just TP straight to Foraik, was really on the other side of a wall here. Change staying alive with those health packs there from Foraik, and now if you're Tizzy, you might need to back out. You're gonna be able to find one, but Lord does lose their life. Bomb being forced out here by Tizzy. Should be able to get back in the mech. They find Volition, but they don't get back in the mech. Now you can see Faceit come right back in with a lot of speed of their own.
100%, you should. Berg does have a Deadeye, but it's going to be really rough to make it work in this situation right here. You can let it go to try to find some space, but you are likely going to see this point potentially be given up. You only have one on. You're eventually going to throw more on. Has to give it up momentarily, but Deadeye activated. Bert, if they find at least one, could open up the door. Pulse Bomb goes out. Still managed to get rid of Freak, and now Bert wants to try to follow up right here. They're going to have the beat at the ready. You're going to have the wall as well, but you might not need that all, but we're going to see the investment from both sides. Beat used directly in form of that annihilation. He thinks this is winnable, but point is going to flip over at this stage of the game. I think a soft reset is necessary.
I mean, a soft reset here is necessary for Faceit, but still, Tizzy not in the mech here. This is your opportunity still to just go in, play aggressive. But right now, DhillPatos doing everything here to really stop them from doing that. I still don't think they know that Tizzy still not in the mech. Lore gonna lose their life here, but the Photon Barrier gonna be able to find a lot of value and just a lot split.
And that is a terrible loss to have right there. Tizzy is going to be able to remech, and unfortunately doesn't get stunned out of it in time. Tizzy is already close to getting demech the second time, has to run for the hills. I like this direct conflict to try to get rid of him. He get another touch coming through here. Flip comes back through for free. DM needs to make their way back here as fast as possible. They are almost back.
They're going to be able to here, but I mean, DhillPatos is going to be able to play very quickly here. Sock going for the boot off the map, not going to be able to find it, but Tizzy has to fall back here. They're going to be able to get the point flip for free, but Lore, a huge pick right there. That was essentially the touch there for Faceit, and here comes yet another kind of soft reset now for Faceit here. And it seems like there's still going to be a little bit of a chase, but I think if you're DhillPatos, this is one of those times where you have to understand your limits. Just fall back here. You're in final fight territory, and you do have one ultimate, about to be 2 ultimates coming up here. A Deadeye finding 1 pick would be all you really need to win this fight.
Genuinely, but you still have Consider Rush. Noel can't quite get it back, but he's really close to being able to do so. So Consider Rush comes out. Laura in a rough situation. Noel needs to survive long enough to get theirs online, and I think that could potentially end things. Deadeye is there. TP behind is trying to keep throwing it around. Touch comes through. A block comes online. Soaks is going to be taken care of, which means no Pete available, but now Bullishin is probably going to have to keep coming up clutch here. Has a bomb ready to go, trying to find a connective target. There's not honestly any super great targets though. Has to go down. He's gonna think to throw it in. Doesn't even need it though. Pudding House comes through. Tizzy gonna have to die on the point. Point flips over, and it's gonna come down to one final fight here as Diego decides to invest. I do not know about that.
I don't like it either, because at that moment right there, you're trying to stagger out Tizzy. I think that's the big thing you really were trying to do there. I think popping that overclock basically made it to where you couldn't really stagger them out here. But you're coming up with 3 ultimates right now. If you're Factor X, you're in a very winnable position, while the other side can have 3 ultimates of their own. The Beat can have to be able to do a lot here, as DM's Annihilation should just be able to kind of melt through everyone here. Tizzy has a bomb, looking to find 1 pick with it this time, but if it gets a point flip, it might just do what they need to do.
Yeah, Beat can be activated now. I mean, honestly, at this point, if you are a DM, you are happy
Someone
to
touched.
right now.
Someone touched.
They didn't. Are you kidding me?
Someone.
Dude, oh my, listen, I don't normally say this, but there was no excuse to not touch that point. You had a wall, you have 5 people alive, that is really rough. Tizzy gets... Ain't no shot, man. W-bomb.
W-bomb, but... like, someone on the team has to be the touch. And whether or not it was going to be Soaks there, who was kind of peeling back to help out in both Noel and Lore, as DM was kind of running them down in that Nemesis form, and especially with that Photon Berry about to be online there for DhillPatos, you did not want to lose it that early here. However, going to Lighthouse now, this Symmetra kind of play style that we're seeing here, or at least the Symmetra for DhillPatos, will work a little bit better. This is a more bunker point for them, and if you set those turrets up, you're at least going to be able to find a little bit more damage, and the TPs find a lot of value here, but I feel like DM found a lot of value there that last map on that Ramatra, while, I mean, yeah, DhillPatos was able to shut down a little bit, they still struggled there. However, Bert finding the opening pick.
Yeah, you see, I mean, there are DhillPatos sitting on like almost every single high ground. It's so tough to deal with. Bert is just waiting for someone to peek her on that corner, and I mean, yeah, Diego not long for the world. In fact, I think all of them potentially not long for the world. But that is a really good pick. Diego taking off. Tizzy knocks 2 away. Tizzy finishes off a 3rd. And Tizzy going to get the 4. This time, an actual 4K comes through.
I kind of, part of me kind of feels like the 2 being knocked off the map was a little bit of just a smart idea to reset right there. They're already down 1 in that fight, and yeah, you were able to trade out Bert, but I don't know. You never know what could have happened. That could have actually just been a legitimate boop coming out there from Tizzy, but a great start here for the Patos. You already see Tizzy 80% to a bomb, so if they play aggressively here, they might just be able to go unpunished, but Soak's dying first. Again, you don't want your Lucio falling first in these kind of compositions because they are your speed. They're your getting around. Tizzy already finding 1 more.
Tizzy is just literally dive bombing with that perk into everybody, and you get so much more time added on. It's more damage. It is so rough if you were standing in a stack and you just have a diva running you down. And now another fight's going to be gone. Tizzy's going to go to the back line to try to finish people off right now. Diego is in such a rough spot. That's going to be the wipe coming through, and now 50% and counting. This is rough for Factor X.
This round right now is essentially Tizzy just going unpunished. They're being able to do whatever they want, and yeah, you're still seeing Factor X find some picks, but you're not getting rid of the biggest problem right now, which is Tizzy. They are having themselves a point of their lives at the moment, and you're coming up to, well, a couple ultimates on the side of DhillPatos. You're going to have your Photon Barrier, while you're going to rotate into a lot of ultimates as well if you're Factor X, but it could be the end of the fight. Oh, okay. Nice recall there by Volition, or else that would have been an unfortunate death.
Yeah, very much so. But we're already entering final fight territory. Consider Rush off the top rope. It's going to make things very awkward here for Factor X right now, but TP the outside, no, going to be able to escape. Fizzy still has a bomb. Weird trade-out right here. Bullishin being down isn't the best case scenario right now, but eventually Freya gets knocked around like crazy. this Tizzy Diva is working out better than it has any right to. And you eventually need to try to die on this point. Gets booped off, which means there's not going to be a retouch. Yeah, and that's that.
There's good.
No retouch, that's that.
Tizzy bomb, not going to be able to find 4 as it did at the end of the last round there, but after a little bit of a misstep on point 2 of not touching it, they really made sure that they are getting the point across. And that was a mistake because they came out and seemed like a completely different team there on that 3rd point. And yeah, Tizzy finding a lot of these boop kills. You have to remember, this was one of the things that was buffed with Diva in the last patch, where this does a significant amount of more damage and significant amount more knockback as well. And Tizzy showing us right there why it is something very, very scary to have to deal with if you are not prepared for it, or if you're playing Tizzy has a bomb. Look like Lighthouse, where, you know, 3 of the 4 sides of the point are death if you fall off.
Yeah, that is rough. I need to go back. I wish I had the ability to see Tizzy's screen at this moment, because I want to know how many environmental kills there were. Because there was at least 3 or 4 at least, I swear. It kept happening to the supports, unfortunately. That is really unfortunate. But Tizzy, we know Tizzy to be that good at this diva. Maybe one of the best divas in South America. Just throwing that out there. But it can't take away from what Factor X did those first 2 rounds and how much they fought back. They just got put in a situation where they weren't sure how to deal with that situation, because Patos basically were playing Assassin's Creed and constantly going up to the roofs, hanging around, and Factor X just wasn't able to replicate that, so these fights just ended up being really awkward.
Yeah, and you go back and look at Ruins there, it was very awkward kind of fights and point takes there, because there were definitely a lot of times that you even called it out that it was a free point flip. One team would lose 1 or 2 and kind of just back out, give the other team the point. We saw there where DhillPatos would lose 1 and kind of just back off the point for a soft reset and to come right back in very quickly. And I think that kind of worked out for Factor X, because if you look at the stats for this map, you wouldn't necessarily expect that it went 3 points. You really wouldn't, just looking at them here. But just, this was a really good map for DhillPatos. Factor X, they had their opportunities and they really exceeded on them on that 2nd point. 3rd point, though, you needed a little bit more there. I don't necessarily know what could have been, what that little bit more could have been, because Tizzy was just on a tear. I don't think they died at all that last point. And like we said, 3, 4, maybe even 5 environmental kills and just being able to run over people as well. I mean, a little bit insane there.
It was extremely insane to see that come into fruition, so I'm excited to see where things go from here. First ban and map pick are both out. We're going to Route 66, and the Lucio has been banned for Factor X. Honestly, I don't dislike this in the slightest. It's going to slow down the game a little bit here. I think with that Lucio, it helps with a little bit of that added chaos that DhillPatos really thrives off of. And if Factor X just want to slow this down, maybe bring in something like a Kiri Wooyoung, try to put this a little bit more into the hands of someone like Diego, who honestly was doing a pretty good job throughout the match, all things considered.
Yeah, and you have to remember that Lucio is very important for both teams, especially for what DhillPatos was running there on that diva. It allowed Tizzy to kind of play a little bit more aggressively, because they were able to just fly in, fly out, and get themselves to safety very easily. So like you said, you get rid of that. Maybe it's a Wooyoung, maybe it's a Brig, maybe it goes over to a Juno if they want to keep that speed, but it's really something where it will make DhillPatos kind of change up here. Factor X, or DhillPatos, they have a ban here. They could go after a tank. They could try to keep that diva on the table here, maybe ban out something that they think could really slow them down, or they go after their DPS line here and try to do that. And honestly, I don't blame the ban that we're actually seeing come out here from DhillPatos. They're banning out the Ramatra, and especially considering that is something that I think gave Factor X their most momentum in that last map. Going into this map here, it's, I think, a really good idea and doesn't necessarily hurt them, maybe even later down the line in the series.
Yeah, because I think part of the thing is that you could 100% make a Ramatra work without a Lucio. Ramatra is one of those characters that works at long range and in short range situations. And I like the fact that there's this situation where we realize, hey, if they want to slow it down, they can run this Ramatra. Let's kill it now, because we're confident enough that when it comes back to a brawl situation, that we don't need to worry about the Ramatra. We are happy with what we are doing. But we'll see how much it ends up being the case here. I imagine the gameplay, I'm not going to say it's going to look significantly different, but I think, at least for the side of Factor X, it's going to look pretty reasonably different. But I'm saying Kiri Wooyoung, something in that department, double flex, I think is extremely likely.
Yeah, I think it could be extremely likely as well here. Actually, it looks like we're getting some subs on the side of DhillPatos here, I believe Ludwig is coming in this map. And actually, they still opted their entire support line.
Yeah.
It looks like WetTube coming in as well here. And yeah, DM definitely does have streamer name on because what is that name?
Wait, so Route 66.
Ruth 6016.
Yeah, I need to see like a list of all the streamer names because I've seen some wild ones at this stage of the game, but I love it. By the way, Carrie Wooyoung, I should retire now, and just with how smart I am, retire on a high note, honestly. GG's.
Yeah, but right now, I mean, kind of seeing the Mirror Diva, maybe something I didn't necessarily expect to see. However, if you are DM, you kind of have to be able to match Tizzy here, or even surpass him on this offensive side. But you look at what, I mean, there's still a lot of teams that could go on. Change on this Zenyatta Faceit on the Wu Yang. They're trying to run, if they stick with this, I think a very heavy damage-based kind of team. I wouldn't necessarily call it a pick kind of composition coming out for them, but they want to be able to at least force Tizzy, force a lot of this pressure that we were seeing from DhillPatos in that first map. But Bert, that's a huge mistake right there, and now Factor X has a great opening here. They seem to execute on it a little bit more.
Yeah, that was a headshot from Diego, didn't quite finish, but then obviously the finish comes through for Big, and now that opens up the door, like you said, entirely so. Recall is also presented here for Volition, who's literally getting chased by the entire team, by the way. Eventually is going to be able to get out, but you get through this first corner, and, I mean, normally you do not get through that first corner for free.
No, and Bert coming back on the offing. We're going to be able to find Diego there, and that kind of slows down a lot here now for Factor X. The Ash is gone. Both these teams going to be using that Ash for a lot here. Dynamite going to be able to get a lot of decent burst damage. Coach going to be able to get a lot of people out of a lot of situations right now. So losing your Ash here, look what that does to Factor X. Completely forces them to have a soft reset here again, and I feel like we're going to be seeing soft reset here a lot throughout the rest of the series, Hunter.
100% we are. It's going to be something that's going to be utilized a lot in this form. Ludwig, though, does go down pretty early in this fight. Volition has been one of those players that has been getting really consistently good in those 1v1 situations, but as you move forward, and Ludwig, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, bet, bring it over to the Tracer, but we're right on this fight right here now. Volition needs to try to grab a make health pack that, by the way, just doesn't exist as they just are trying to inch forward that card.
Ludwig gets taken down there for a brief moment, but now it seems like DhillPatos kind of in an awkward spot here. They're trying to play both high grounds, but you really can't play this far split up. Burned out being harassed there by Volition, but now they're yeah, I was going to say, an ultimate coming out there from Null.
Yeah, from both sides, and that is a very awkward disconnection. Yeah. So let's bring in the context here, because I don't know where you're at in terms of your screen, but I'm currently on Bert, so I don't see a whole lot right now.
I have a good angle of this right now. Tizzy has that title blast on them, and Faceit, Changed, and Diego are all very, very close to a ticking time bomb, as it might be right here. Unfortunate with losing DM because they were also part of this fight. Then they'll respawn, I think, back in the spawn here. So this fight, even though it was starting to look like it was going the way of Factor X a little bit, I think that the Kitsune Rush was going to be a little bit better for them from Change. Now, you just lost a really good ultimate if you're Factor X here. While the other side, yeah, they use their title blast, but they still have that Kitsune Rush. So it's going to be a little bit difficult here for them, but you see him back in and that title blast goes off. Going to be able to shut down one, but Diego actually finds Bert. Ludwig, though, going to be able to trade it back out there onto Volition. And this is just a reset point here for Factor X after a very, very unfortunate disconnect.
Yeah, we can't stress how unfortunate that is. You obviously don't know how that goes, but at the end of the day, regardless of what has happened, you have to sit here, you have to focus on this next fight, get everything engaged. You still have some really good ult going into this fight, honestly. Diego is far enough ahead on that Bob for it to honestly matter a very significant amount. Volition's still doing really good on the Tracers. That Pulse Bomb can make a really big impact, not to mention the Tidal Blast that can pretty much save anybody at any given time.
Yeah, I will say this. Ludwig and Bert have been doing, Diego and Volition have been doing a good job trying to slow down Bert here. The Tidal Blast out there from Rake, I don't really think finds a lot there for Factor X, but again, Ludwig very low on health. Tizzy about to be DMX'd here. Getting rid of the bomb would be huge for them.
Yeah, full bomb throw out. We're gonna find a perfect stick over onto Null right there. Wedgehip and Tizzy both low. Bomb is still at the ready as Tizzy manages to get the mega health pack, manages to help find Friek in the process. Point very close to coming through right now. Burt is incredibly low. He's eventually gonna get some care as Liquid tries to find a little something, but instead knocked out of the mech. Reset comes through once again. A minute on the clock and changed. Unfortunate little stagger.
They have been killed quickly there. I mean, they could have kept them alive again a little bit longer there, but still. I think the unfortunate thing is because of the time when we saw DM get disconnected, they necessarily won't have a bomb until really final fight. And this could be that moment here while Tizzy, Burt have Bob and Bomb ready to go. If you look inside of Factor X, they're going to have a Kitsune Rush here again. Change did build it up very quickly here. That could give them the edge in this fight, but everyone needs to stay alive as a Kitsune Rush comes out a little bit early.
Really early, but everyone needed to stay alive. That was a really rough situation to be in right now. Bob is going to be thrown in by both sides. We'll see how well the Bob ends up working out. Bomb not going to find a whole lot. Bobs are essentially considering having a big 1v1 off right now, but eventually Diego and the Bob are going to fall down. Null getting 2 and already with 10 seconds left. I mean, this has to be the best bomb of DM's career for it to have the necessary impact you're hoping for, but it doesn't happen, and Dex, this is just an inevitability. It's a really rough inevitability, but you're trying to get bodies back, but there's just too many tools, too many bodies sitting by, and inevitably this is going to be a full hold for DhillPatos. A unfortunate situation, but they still make it happen.
Yeah, good round here for the DhillPatos. I think Factor X, like we said, the unfortunate disconnect of DM in that fight, I think will be looked at as a little bit of a difference maker there. They had Bomb ready to go, and they could have really invested into that fight there when they used their Kitsune Rush just to try to get that point. You saw them try multiple times to get a back cap, but it just didn't end up going their way there. And you got to give it up to DhillPatos again. They're just being able to kind of hold on to it, be able to kind of just keep that keep everything calm throughout that entire round. Burt, I mean, they got tested a lot that round. Diego and Volition were doing a really good job making sure Burt struggled in a lot of situations there. And it was also just kind of how DhillPatos was playing. Burt was kind of always off on their own in that back line, so they let them as a little bit of a sitting duck a lot of times there. But Tizzy, again, showing us right now a little bit of a masterclass on the Diva. And like you said, you have to really start talking about Tizzy as one of the best tanks in this region here, because they, I mean, we've only seen them play Diva tonight, but we've seen them play a lot more throughout the other seasons of Faceit and all the other tournaments that they have been a part of.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real excited when we get into World Cup territory, because I think we were looking at a couple names in this lobby right now that are in very heavy consideration to be on that squad again. Obviously, along with Null, both previously a part of that 2023 World Cup squad. We'll see if that's some repeat succession, but obviously still a job to be done right here tonight. You may have gone the full hold, but there's every chance you're going to be held even harder.
Yeah, the full hold is a complete possibility here. And going back to the World Cup, you have to remember, Brazil, one of those teams that's already locked in, or one of those nations that's already locked in here. So all they have to do is just make the team here, which, I mean, they could make it here. But right now, I mean, if you are Factor X, you just have to play safe here. You don't want to lose anyone early on, because at this point here, you're letting them push up to the corner. If you lose a fight, that's basically the map at this point. So you have to play smart, but Null finds Volition out. That's kind of costly here. You just need to play safe now if you're Factor X.
Yeah, and you barely keep DM alive in the mech here. And if DM goes out of that mech, you can nearly consider this thing done and over with. Correa goes down, Diego's down. This might just be done and dusted from here on out. Nobody on that car, by the way. I'm pretty sure Tizzy's like looking back, telling her, hey, buddy, listen, get on that car.
Yeah. On the car now, it will allow time here for Factor X to get a reset and get back out to fight, but with no ultimates here, it's going to be another dry fight, and Null again finding Volition out early on. That was going to be your touch here. Now you're really forcing it to be DM to throw their body on the card here as they chase after Tizzy. Who's going to be the touch? Because someone has to get there. Looks like it will be DM, but that backline just getting harassed at the moment.
Yeah, everyone's being punished. Frick may eventually get the pick here, but I mean, for DM, they're literally a sitting duck right now. No pun is intended there, I promise you that. Diego does manage to get one, though. They're still hanging around. You're keeping touches on here, but it has to be Volition who's staying alive, unfortunately. Rest of the team is dying around them. Less than a meter remaining. Recall still available. But again, I think this is just delaying the inevitable, potentially. Trying to charge the find Wetsu. I mean, you have every ultimate in the world. It's not even necessary. Bomb comes through. No retouch for Volition. And Patos take away this one. It is 2-0 now in their favor. And you could talk about the unfortunate disconnection from before. That does not take away from how quick that first point cap was through on the attack.
Yeah, again, like I said, because of where that cart was and how much Factor X gave up there for free. And again, a lot of teams do that, so it's not like it's out of the ordinary. But one fight was all they really needed to get that first point. And yeah, there was a little moment there where they didn't push that allowed Factor X to come back in and have a chance to potentially hold there. And I mean, they did find some picks. They had the opportunity there, but DhillPatos, they had the positioning, they had everything going their way there. Just pick up a couple more members of Factor X and be able to complete that map there. 2-0 now up in the series. It are the Patos here. So one more map and they will be moving on to a solid 4-0. And Hunter, you have to remember, I mean, that we're almost at the halfway mark of this season here in South America. 4-0 puts you in a really, really good spot here. But Factor X, I think they showed us a little bit more life, that map, than what we saw back on Ilios. Again, just the unfortunate disconnect. It kind of throws that map into that what if scenario. I don't think a lot of teams, a lot of coaches really like talking about, but it really does put them in that what if.
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about what ifs in Overwatch. There are a ton of what ifs, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't stop what is happening now in the present, where you need to try to bounce back and make things go your own way. And I think I like the route that DhillPatos, or I should say the situation that Factor X are taking DhillPatos. They're going over to New Junk City. Zarya is going to be the ban in this situation, which means I don't think it's necessarily the threat of it. I think Tizzy could pull out a pretty good Zarya, but this seems like more of a protection just to make sure that you are given DM every single option at their expenditure.
Yeah, and hey, one thing before I talk about the bans here.
Yeah.
Tizzy never died last map.
Wait, what? No shot.
Tizzy and WedTube never died.
That's crazy.
They like, you want to talk about good performances. Tizzy did a really good job staying in the mech. The supports there, both Null and WedTube, were able to keep them in that mech at all times. And it wasn't like Tizzy was playing passive. They were playing very aggressive. They were always trying to get in the face of Factor X, and they were doing it pretty often. Null and WedTube did a great job keeping them alive and keeping this kind of really in-your-face playstyle we're seeing here from the Patos so far this series. Now, though, we do know what our second ban is heading into, potentially our final map of the night, which, Hunter, coming into this one here, me and you thought that, or me and you, I still think, or at least still think that this could be a good series. I could still see it going 5 here. Factor X has shown us throughout this series that they could go head toe-to-toe with DhillPatos. Genji could be the second ban here as we head into New Junk City. So no Genji. We haven't really seen a lot of Genji throughout this series at all. But heading into New Junk City definitely has an opportunity to see the Cyber Ninja come in, but we're not going to be able to this time around.
Yeah, 100%. We'll see what the situation is going to be here momentarily. But again, it's a situation right now where going into this game, I can see it genuinely going a lot of different ways. Factor X, I think, despite what happened, I think they are in a good place. I think they're going in with a level of confidence here, knowing that they are going to play to what I think are some of their best strengths in this situation right here. I think DhillPatos still have every reason in the world to be confident, obviously, but I think Factor X, everything we've seen from the squad, I think they're able to go in the situation and make a lot of good things happen. I think the most important thing, Dex, which I think we're in full agreement here, is they need to get off to a really good start.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to that second point on Ilios. I said, like, hey, Factor X needed to get off to a good start on that one. I think a lot of stuff was going to go a little bit differently if they did. And look, they got off to a good start, won the first fight, won that point, and got the first cap, and then ended up winning that point. That was the best that Factor X looked. I think they looked really good on the first point push because, hey, they got off to a good start. They were able to find the first pick, gave them a lot of space for free, allowed them to start playing aggressively, and it ended up working out for them for a little bit, really until that disconnect. But right now, for this series and this map, it's going to come down to a big thing here. It looks like Sox and Lore are coming back in here for the Patos. WedTube also staying in as well. Oh, wait, no, I don't think WedTube came out. I might be going crazy.
No, you're good. WedTube, Lore, or yeah, I'm going to confuse too. What I'm saying is that they swap back in their lineup for support. So everything is back to the way it was the first time around. On the other side of things, though, everything is the exact same as that was shot, brother.
Oh, okay.
S. It ain't no.
I have to imagine this has something to do with either
I have
bad
300
ping
ping.
from so Bird has 300 ping.
That's crazy.
So I think this was a little bit of just a ping issue. But right now, Tizzy asking for the unpause. They're back in the lobby, so they just wanted to get get a little bit better. What is an hero guy doing in my lobby?
That's crazy. I love it.
But right now, at least from what we're kind of seeing both these teams tease us with here, yeah, there's still a lot of time for these two teams to really get to make changes here. Both teams are at least showing us Jungle Queen from the side of Factor X. I mean, Diego staying on the Soj. I like it. Volition now showing us another hero right now on the Venture. I could see him sticking with that. I could also see him going straight back over to the Tracer here. But yeah, Lore. What is going on?
Tizzy is crashing out in real time right now. I love it. Oh, you know what it is? Tizzy and Freyek made a 6-7 joke. That's why. Honestly, reasonable crash out.
Okay. Yeah, so Jungle Queens from both sides here. Lore going to be sticking with the Symmetra. They cause a lot of problems map 1, but I think they're going to struggle to find a lot of value this time around unless you're really using a lot of TP strategies here. With this combination, it could work, but you need a lot of communication and a lot of just, well, yeah, communication and coordination to just get it to work out very well. I think Volition on this Venture is going to end up being a big problem to Lore here, maybe even forcing the swap off if they're able to just disrupt them a lot.
Yeah, but I like this entire method. By the way, Volition, brave as can be, running directly into Tizzy, but right now, but TP goes through Burt, caught out in the process, but Diego ends up paying for it. You see a disconnection right there. Volition is going to get hit with that. Honestly, one of the best time cleanses I've seen in a hot minute. Is going to cause, at least temporarily, for the point to flip over towards Factor X. It's a 3v3 though. Both Queens are still alive. I mean, honestly, DM just needs to collapse on somebody eventually, because the longer this goes on, the better it's going to be here for DhillPatos.
And you already see Lore here using the TP to get in and off the point, and now essentially everyone there from the Patos just collapsing straight in onto DM, who puts up a decent amount of fight. Shane's gonna be able to find one, but the point gonna flip over here, and I think if you are Factor X, this is your moment to get out, but you're finding some picks on your exit, but as Volition comes right back in, they're sent right back out.
I still think you could probably engage in this. It's a 4v3 situation at the moment, but that's a really unfortunate potential knife onto Freyek, who is able to survive. Lord does go down. This is your best case scenario right now, to be able to go in this situation, take this dub away. But they're taking their sweet time right now. It's allowed for 4 people to get back into this. You see DM just getting literally just thrown into the ether. Eventually, it's going to rush directly onto Tizzy right now, who is incredibly low. Easily burnt away, eventually is able to do so. The point will essentially be given up right here, 58% on the board here, but Tizzy already has built up that rampage.
And Burt almost taken out right there. That would have been a little bit of a costly stagger as well, but like you said, that rampage, the continuing rush, the photon barrier beat, about to be ready here for DhillPatos. So this point swap, not necessarily the biggest concern for them, especially as you see Freyek, 75% to a beat, not really gonna have anything here to cleanse all the ultimates that might be thrown out here by the Patos here very early on. Diego's overclock might have to be something that really saves this team throughout this fight.
Yeah, right now you're hoping to get a little something here. Shout ends up coming out here. Diego trying to invest. Diego been struggling a little bit to get a lot of that big follow-up right here. Rough situation, and Tizzy is looking for it. Perfect knife right there. Doesn't get quite the follow-up. Eventually hits the solo wall over. Only onto one person. Ends up being DM, but it is the necessary big beat directly on top of it. And now you're going to see an investment here from Volition. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not going to do a single thing here. It's going to be good for stalling up the point a little bit longer. This next fight will decide it, but the bright side is, I mean, you have two really strong ultimates coming up here for Factor X.
You have two strong ultimates, but I think Volition, they kind of recognize the moment they popped that Tectonic Shock, and they kind of wanted it back, because that would have been 3 really good ultimates. The beat having to come out here early to keep everybody alive, and now if you're Factor X, you have to commit into this point. You cannot just let it go, but who's going to be the touch? Looks like it's going to be Volition here, but still, there's a long fight ahead. The Rampage comes out, does land on the web too, but they're going to be able to cleanse themselves.
Yeah, Volition's in a really rough situation. Has to hide away, at least momentarily. You're going to get another touch here, but unfortunately, DM is extremely low. Volition has literally nowhere to go. You lose out on DM here. Flip should come through without too much more issue. Volition is going to get taken out, and this is the first point heading over slowly but surely to DhillPatos. Change gets one on the way out, but that will be that. And that is just, I mean, that's again, it's people being separated, not being able to collapse in on a select target.
Yeah, and again, I think you can really tell where that fight was going to go when that beat was used pretty early there by Faceit, and I don't blame them for using it when they did. They had to. If you don't use it, Change dies to the disruptor shot there from Bert, and that fight never happens. So it was a good usage of the beat, but you would have loved to have it for a point fight where you could have been able to clean up some members of DhillPatos here. But now, coming over to our second point, you do have a Kitsune Rush ready to go. However, another Rampage, Kitsune Rush, and Photon Barrier about to be up here for the Patos, who are in a much better spot, both position-wise and ult-wise.
Yep, so the rushes are available right now to Change and Wetsu, both gonna let theirs go. Weird situation to be in right now. Again, if you are DM, need all the care in the world to be able to stay alive. Ults, I mean, nowhere even close. Tizzy could have a really good finish here. Good pull over there as Bert is taken care of. Tizzy could be ran down here, honestly, but I think with relative ease given the situation. Tizzy is going to go through, catching directly over onto Diego. Perfect knife comes through, though, so that is a really reasonable trade if you are a big fan here, though. Lore managed to get another. Beat is invested. They wanted to win this fight really badly, but unfortunately, Strike is just having so much health, so much sustainability, and eventually, I think this fight is going to securely head over in time to Factor X.
Yeah, the beat, I mean, yeah, DhillPatos has been playing great all night. I understand why they want to try to keep up with that momentum, but probably not the best time to use it, because now you kind of put yourself behind the 8-ball here with only an overclock going into 3 really good ultimates on the other side here. So if you're Factor X, I think you kind of want to draw this fight out as long as you possibly can, because you know there's really no ultimates on the other side, especially with Lore swapping over to the Tracer here now. So you have 3 good ultimates of your own, a Rampage, an Overclock, and that beat. So you have a lot at your disposal. Both Overclocks, though, out here early on.
Yeah, both maintain each other. Beat eventually going to be used by Faceit. Diego's the only one not caught, but Diego is the one currently popping off without that extra health. Bert in the air, Volition able to help clear things out. Diego, a little bit of pressure, but should be able to sustain through it. 50% and counting, as Volition does go down. This fight not quite over yet, but I imagine with lower down, that will cause for that. And now Tizzy should experience, I would imagine, should experience a late death, but no, is going to get out alive.
You needed to find Tizzy there if you're a Factor X. That staggering kill would have just cost DhillPatos a lot, maybe even force them to not even come back in. Now they're going to be able to have this soft reset, come right back in, have this Kitsune Rush of their own from WebTube, hopefully, where you're going up against a Kitsune Rush and a Rampage on the other side. And if you're Factor X, one of those is going to come out early. I expect it to be that Rampage, as I think you already start to see DM setting up for it, but Diego finding Lore is huge.
Yeah, Clinton's already out, and here it comes. It's going to hit only one person, but honestly, Bert is a perfect target to get it onto right here. Thought he's going after another. Pulse Bomb is going to miss out. Fight win is inevitably going to come through here. We're going to tie things up, but the problem is there is a large ult disparity going to this next one, but it is a good start for Factor X.
Yeah, if you Factor X, you needed that point, and you needed it bad. Flashpoint, though, going to be going over to Bob Flats, which is the point right next door. So Factor X going to be able to get set up here pretty early on. No ultimates, like you said, but hey, just being able to get positioned is maybe more than enough sometimes. However, Kitsune Rush, Beat, Pulse Bomb, Rampage, that'd be a little bit too much for Factor X to handle here, but if Diego can find an opening pick, like how they have been doing a lot throughout this map so far, you never know what might happen.
Yeah, you never know. Nearly finds it, by the way, like I think a couple pixels off from that being the case. Point is opening. Eventually you're going to have the Kitsune Rush, and honestly, there's not really much they can do about this. If you don't have that opening pick, you run for the hills. If you get everybody out alive, this is an amazing fallback of Volition caught on the way out.
I was going to say the kite there was perfect, but Volition just pokes their head a little bit too far. First, people find them. Tizzy shuts down Diego. Diego will find their counterpart, but still a very kind of scattered fight here. If the 3 remaining members of Factor X can stay alive, they can come back in very quickly. And hey, everyone's back here now, so I would expect them to go in fast now. Tizzy needs to die here if you're Factor X.
Yeah, rough situation though. Diego doesn't get hit with it. Yeah, and now everyone's gonna throw it back. Rhea can't get it online in time. Tizzy with 3 currently. Wetsuit gonna help finish things out. And now Volition's gonna die late on this point. Still time to come back here. Beat available, but this is gonna be a rough one.
I mean, a 4-man Rampage and a 4-man Rampage right there. Yeah. Just Tizzy doing God's work right there for DhillPatos. But like you said, they're gonna have a Rampage. They're gonna have a Kitsune Rush, Beat, and Bomb here. Yeah, you still have a lot on the side of DhillPatos here, and one fight is really all you need here. The touch, so we're at least going to overtime. Who's gonna throw the first ultimate out? There's Sox. I imagine 4X Beat, not that far behind.
Yeah, 100%, and you're going to have this on the line. You're going to catch on to one person. Again, it's only Bert who gets caught with it. Is in a really rough situation. Is just running for the hills. Eventually gets care of it, not quite enough and not quite in time. Gotta try to stay alive right now. Faceit gets taken out just before the carnage, and I imagine this is probably going to be it for this point right here. Change. Gotta hold on to that Kitsune rush. Last person on for Yekas. Yeah, we are only one round away from DhillPatos potentially taking a 3-0.
Yeah, and I mean, they've been playing great throughout this entire series here. Factor X, I think they've started to find weaknesses this map, but they now need to put it together for the final 2 points on this map. Hell, or just put it together for this point and then focus on the final point when we get there, because you look at what DhillPatos are going to have. They already have the overclock, not that far away from Casino Rush. Another rampage here for Tizzy. It found 4 last time. Looking to match that here again. That would be huge for them, but Tizzy now maybe overextend themselves a little bit too far. The Casino Rush out here from both sides to get this fight going.
Yep, double Kitsune rush. Lowers in a really weird spot right now. Literally sitting at 1 health, eventually going to be hunted down by Volition, but opening is still here. Fight not over quite yet. Here's the investment from Bert here, who's already going to get rid of one. Trying to slide away. Rough situation as unfortunately separated from the team right now. They're trying to get DM out there alive, but it's really rough as point. Should flip over in the favor of DhillPatos for the moment being Strike. Throwing out every cooldown possible, but it's not going to be enough, and that is a really, monumental loss there for Factor X.
Change, not able to get it out right there, so you have to wait. And this is where DhillPatos has really excelled throughout the night, being able just to take space, play aggressively, because really they haven't been punished yet. I mean, Factor X has been able to break through a couple times, but normally you just see DhillPatos just back up, give up the space again, because they don't want to lose anyone early on. However, you look at the other side, no ultimate's ready to go here. This would be a time for Tizzy maybe to pop it, the rampage, and just be able to end a fight before it even gets started.
100%. I 100% would see that happening. But this is last fight territory. It has to happen here and now. Perfect pull directly over onto DM right there. Gonna be able to survive. Change. Supports Duke hit with the break. Doesn't get the health from it though. Goes down, and now this could be the beginning of the end of this round. Bullshit is about to have a pulse bomb right around the corner. It's gonna be needed to pull this one back around. Is currently being chased. The Kingdom Come eventually is gonna fall down, and with that, Factor X's chances are gonna go with it. Perfect pulse directly on man. It's just over from here. 3-0 in this situation, and Factor X, they tried, they gave their hardest, but DhillPatos came to win.
Yeah, DhillPatos, again, we came into the series maybe having a little bit of questions about this DhillPatos team because we talked about the differences between the Faceit League roster and the Sudamericana roster, but I think with this victory here tonight over Factor X, it gives you a good sign of where maybe DhillPatos is in power rankings here. You could put them #1. You still have a couple other teams that are currently undefeated, FA Overwatch and Truckers Vlog. I'm going to try to say that eventually correctly here, but still undefeated now through their first 3 games. Factor X, they had their opportunities throughout this entire series. And remember, Hunter, we talked about it. This is a brand new Factor X roster. They seem to be on the same page with a lot of stuff here, but it's just going up against a little bit of a better team here tonight. This might be a match, though, come playoffs. If both these teams make it, you have to watch out for. This Factor X team has really impressed me a lot through the small amount of times we've been able to see them with a little bit more practice. And remember that 2-3 week break to end the year and to start next year. This Factor X team could become a really, really good team, but DhillPatos right now might be the class of the region.
Honestly, yeah, I think it's incredibly fair to look at them and say that they are the team to beat right now. I think 100% they are. They were the team to beat in the Sudamericana, and even with this changed roster, I think they are the team to beat now. And obviously, we'll see who's going to be able to make that happen because, let's be perfectly real, Dex, we have had the conversation of the team to beat in the last couple seasons of South America, and let me tell you, the team to beat did eventually get beat in those situations, you know? It has happened a very fair amount. This is how, honestly, you could replicate this to North America as well, but I think it's really prominent here in South America, where given any day, any roster can go in there and put on an extremely good performance. Now, who will be the one to eventually take down DhillPatos? Obviously, it's questionable. You don't know at the end of the day. Their next matchup is going to be against, like you said, Trucker Vlog and then FA Overwatch, teams that have performed pretty well so far. We watched the FA Overwatch team over in the Sudamericana, performed extremely well. I think barely just missed out of the top 4 for playoffs, but they were extremely good, and Actually, we did their game last week as well. Or is that the game that got canceled? Which one was?
No, we did their game.
Okay.
We did it. We
Yeah,
did FA.
That was their. They 3-0'd, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they 3-0'd in that one. FA Overwatch or Faith and Overwatch was able to 3-0 that one here. I think they're a really impressive team right now. But still, this Factor X team, again, there were struggles throughout the series, but it seemed like they were starting to put it together in all the maps. But just one thing went against them, and they were kind of had to go back to square one here. I did like the venture from them to start off the map. I did like the swap eventually there as well to go back over to the Tracer. I think it ended up working out for them a little bit better. But still, very early in the season for this Factor X team, I expect to see this team actually bounce back here pretty quickly. DhillPatos, though, like you said, who's going to be the team to beat them? They did go 5 against Cosmos. Could be them. Could be Truck Vlog. Could be FA Overwatch. Could be someone else. Because like you said, chaotic things happen in Faceit Master Tier all the time, but this roster right now looks incredibly well, and I just want to give a quick shout out to Tizzy. 6 deaths throughout the entire series.
Man, no, it's so impressive what Tizzy able to do in this situation, and this is why, like low-key, there are so many players that deserve to be involved in the World Cup, because obviously it's always gonna be a situation where every region there's gonna be someone who does not make it. Tizzy, I think, has a really good case. This is not a glazing session, by the way. We're not sponsored by Tizzy. We're not sponsored by anybody in this situation, but it is a
stop there.
What
just stop there.
What do you mean? You can't do this to me.
Finish it.
Whatever. Well, it's too late. The joke's dead and gone. What I'm trying to say is that if Tizzy was on that World Cup team, I would not be surprised in the slightest. That is all I'm trying to say here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely. But right now, there's a lot of time before those teams get finalized, and there's a lot of other great players here in the South American region, which we will see throughout the rest of this Faceit Masters tier season, whether it be in the next couple weeks or whether we in January as the season wraps up. But right now, DhillPatos off to a great start this season, won their first 3 games, 4-0 on the record book. Factor X, they dropped their first one here, but 3-1, still nothing to scoff about as you finish up your first 4 games.
Yeah, no, in the absolute slightest. Nah, I'm excited to see both these teams. I think they're both top 4 caliber teams. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if we had this rematch down the line in the playoffs. So we'll see what that comes to form. It's still going to be a really long season. We are very early on, and it is too late or too early to say anything. But we'll get there when we get there. But for at least the moment, we're going to be cutting it over and going on break for a while. But we're streaming again later tonight. We have Nightmare Academy taking on In Control. It's Nightmare Academy's first game of the season, if you can believe that, at the near end of the second week. And for In Control, they're trying to get their first win of the season after a couple of rough showings to get things going, but a couple of tough teams they went up against in the beginning. I hope y'all come up for that. That's happening about 2 hours from now. We hope y'all come back. If not, I'm happy y'all were here. I'm happy you enjoyed some more South American action. Please join us for some North American action later on, and if not, have yourselves a fantastic night. See you soon.